Well, it's Saturday morning, and you know what that means. We got to get together and talk about what's going on in the world. You've had your breakfast. I am now going to go ahead and tell you what I think. You're going to tell me what you think. And we're going to start our day and make ourselves better for it. And with that, I say the following. Hi, how are you out there in internet land? My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. Welcome to Front Porch Brunch. A very casual, very calm, very cool thing we do on Saturday mornings here on the electronic front porch, where we get together, pull up a chair, pour ourselves a cup of coffee or a mimosa or a Bloody Mary or whatever it is we happen to need to get through the morning. And we sit down together, we talk to each other, we talk about the news, we tell each other what we're thinking, good or bad. And we try and get through this crazy thing we otherwise call life. So I'm glad to have you guys here this morning. TBA over on Rumble says, oh my God, the bacon, the eggs, and the cheese wrap is now served. I'm going to need a stack of napkins to eat it all. Well, there you go. See, this is the kind of fun you can have on a Saturday morning in my live stream. You could be noshing on food that is your favorite sort of thing to help you get by. And then before you know it, you have a full belly and a full mind, because we are going to talk to you about what's going on in the news. And we do that on the following places. We do it on Rumble. We do it on Twitter. And we do it on that quaint little alternative social media website known as YouTube. So if you wouldn't mind, please do me some favors. I genuinely appreciate it. Number one, if you're not subscribed to my channel, go ahead and subscribe. Number two, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. There's this funny little man out there called Mr. Algorithm. Mr. Algorithm seems to love it when you give me a thumbs up. He likes to promote my work a little bit more. So if you want to help me promote the thing a little bit more, give me a thumbs up. Share the link around and also hit the bell for notifications. I want to make sure you're always aware when I got a new live stream or I got a new video going up. So the music has come to an end. Let us sit down together. Let us talk things over. What is going on? There she is. There she is. Good morning, my love. Good to see you. See who else is here. I had a lack of sleep and a couple of donuts for breakfast. Well, you know, that's how it usually goes for me. I broke down this morning and did something I needed to do, and I'm kind of actually glad I did it. The bad thing about a fella who's trying to lose weight is that where my house is situated, I have restaurants galore around me. About 2 blocks to the east of where my house is located is one of the main drags to get in and out of my town. And man, if you want fast food, regular food, man, you are set. I mean, you got a McDonald's, you got a Wendy's, you got a Taco Bell, you got a Bob Evans, and if you know about Bob Evans, then you definitely are probably from the Midwest at a minimum. You know about it in Ohio. I know Robert knows about Bob Evans's, but TBA says, so you went to Jim's again, didn't you? Funny you should say that. I had lunch over there I had lunch from there on Friday. I kind of treat myself at the end of the week with this eating plan that I'm on to one really good meal. Now, I'm very basic. Okay. If you know anything about me, I'm a very basic guy. If you give me meat and potatoes, fancy food is great, but just, I'm very simple. Give me basics. Give me comfort food. And Jim's is one of my go-to comfort foods. Yeah, Robert, I absolutely agree with this. Nothing beats and the thing about a good small town greasy spoon is they have their own reputation. They've been around, usually the kind of place, and Robert, stop me if I'm wrong, the kind of place you and I are probably thinking of, it's been around for years. They don't even need to advertise. No radio, no TV. Everybody knows where they are. It's the kind of food, if you're looking for comfort food, or in some cases, hangover food, this is where you go, okay? And usually this is the kind of restaurant where you got a bunch of old guys sitting around talking to each other, or as I refer to them as their Romeos, and which Romeo stands for Retired Old Men Eating Out. So this is the kind of place that's got a bunch of Romeos hanging around, retired old men eating out. And they're talking about everything from the local high school football team to I can't believe the steel plant closed. I can't believe this guy's still working. Has this guy retired yet? That sort of thing. And it's the kind of food where you sit down at the counter or you sit down in this booth and you just you know what you want to order. Yeah, exactly. They don't understand why this kind of restaurant is the kind of place they don't understand advertising, and they have no use for it anyway, because they've been around for so long that they don't need it. There used to be a place, and it's gone now, when I was living out in the Midwest, and I can see it in my mind's eye. I went there on a few occasions at all hours of the day and night. It was a 24-hour restaurant, one of the last of its kind. The place was called Mr. Ted's. And man, you talk about a greasy spoon. This was the joint. Okay. They had something called a haystack. Now, picture the following. Okay. You had 2 biscuits cut in half. All right. Hang on a second. You had 2 biscuits cut in half. On top of that, you had hash browns. On top of that, you had 2 eggs sunny side up. And on top of that, you had white sausage gravy. And they serve that up to you steaming hot. Man, you want something that would absolutely stick to your ribs. That was it. And if you were coming in from a bar at 1 in the morning or 4 in the morning, at 3:30 in the morning, and like I said, this place was like a 24-hour dive. Okay. This was the place to go to. If you want to start sobering up, this is what you do. We used to have a place here in my hometown called Dwight's. It's long since gone now. And they were on the corner. What was it? 6th Avenue and 1st Street. Dwight's was the place you went to start sobering up before you went home. Okay. So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. WWG1 says, some are born with a silver spoon in their mouth. I was born with a greasy spoon. Preach, brother. Preach. Gypsy says, greasy spoons are the best, but rapidly going away. COVID put thousands of them out of business. Oh yeah, not just greasy spoons either. We're talking some high-end restaurants. I remember years ago when Rush Limbaugh had his television show. The studio where he would record it was right near a restaurant, and this is when he was still living up in the Big Apple. It was near a place called Patsy's. Patsy's was family owned. It had been there for decades. COVID came around, and sure enough, COVID got them. Put Patsy's out of business. They had been around for, like I said, literally decades. And yeah, just put them out. TBA over on Rumble says there was a great truck stop north of Lansing in Clare, Michigan, that served 1 pound of bacon with their eggs and toast. Oh my God, you could feed a family of 4. You could feed a village of Ethiopians on that. What are you talking about, a family of 4? Pound of bacon with eggs, man. You could feed a whole village of skinny Ethiopians with that stuff. Jeez, dude. Wow. If I don't travel that much anymore, not for various reasons, but if I ever get up that neck of the woods, I definitely want to check that place out. He says, I know that it could feed a family of 4 because we were the family of 4 that. Okay, fair enough. All right. Let's get down to business, y'all. Because I know that there are people watching us on YouTube, on the platforms, are like, what the heck is all this stuff? Look, we call it brunch for a reason. We like to talk about food. What can I tell you? All right. I found something this morning that is completely and absolutely unrelated to anything I'm necessarily going to talk about. But the more I listen to it, it's a 2-minute clip. And I said, you know what? I'm playing this. I've got to do it. Oh, I know. Yeah, and by the way, folks, if you're not watching Lionel Nation, let me recommend him to you. Lionel is, if you've never followed his stuff before, he is one of those stream of consciousness thinkers. He knows where he's going, but he's going to go all over the place to get there. But watching him have a discussion about something is almost as good as watching me. No, I'm just kidding. He's way better at it than I am. But yeah, watch Lionel Nation. He's very, very insightful fellow. Very insightful. Good morning, Midmo. Glad to have you here. Anyway, I found this clip this morning, and given what's going on in Great Britain right now with Comrade Keir Starmer, man, this speech, I don't know if this is the England's version of give me liberty or give me death, but I tell you what, this was so good. So good. Now, let me set up the context for this. And I don't even know this lady's name. I don't know who she is. But she's speaking at what's called the Oxford Union. Now, for those of you that are familiar with the term, the Oxford Union is a debate society. Okay. If you are invited to the Oxford Union for a debate, odds are you're recognized as being pretty famous. Second of all, you're pretty, let's just say maybe not well versed, but you're known for one particular topic or another. Okay. And like I say, I don't know when this was. It's probably very recent from the sound of it. And I don't know the lady's name, but this woman that I'm about to play for you gave the best full-throated defense of the freedom of speech that I have ever heard. Or if not the best, one of the best. And with that, the clip runs about 2 minutes. If I feel the need to interrupt it, I will. But daggone it, this was great. It was inspiring. I want to bring it to you guys. And with that, here you go. And as always, give me a sound check.
Nobody has the right to live their lives being protected from offence or from insult or from hurt feelings. It is an occupational hazard of living in society. And if you really can't take it, become a hermit. But more seriously, on the opposite end from the snowflakes, poor little darlings, on the opposite end from them are the totalitarians. Now, I would love to stand in this union and oppose and argue with and take to pieces a Holocaust denier. But if we say no, we can never have the Holocaust denier because his views are so offensive that he cannot be accorded a platform. Then what happens? That sort of viewpoint is driven underground where it can quite often flourish. And people whisper behind their hands, oh, you know, there's something in what he says, but we're not allowed to hear it. Let's hear it. And by hearing it, we can destroy it. We should also remember it is absolutely right that we should allow people, no matter how profoundly we disagree with them. I hate to utter cliches in this august debating hall, but I am going to utter one. That no matter how much we may disagree with somebody, we should defend to the hilt their right to say it. And that is something that I have believed all my life. And just remember this. You may feel virtuous today in what you will not hear. But tomorrow somebody may feel virtuous in not hearing what you have to say. Free speech is for all, not for the privileged few.
I have a 2-word response to that. Hell yes. Hell yes. And good morning, Professor. Glad to have you here. Ann Whitcomb. Okay. You know what? Let me do a real quick. A real quick wiki on that one. Whittycombe. Okay, well, I say Whittycombe only because I'm West Virginian and pronunciation of words is difficult for me inherently. Yep, that's her. Anne Whitcomb, born in 47. Yeah, been a British television politician, has been in Reform UK's immigration and justice spokesperson since 2023. Ah, she's one of Nigel's kids. All right. Okay. Shouldn't say kid. She's born in 47, but still, yeah, you get the idea. Yeah, you know, I was trying to think of a way to describe her her distinct British way of speaking. But I tell you what, that's pretty good. TBA says, Nigel's kids? She's older than Nigel. Well, okay, but you get the idea, you know. She's a wise old bird. Her childish government ought to listen to her. Yeah. This old grand dame should give the entire UK government a brisk spanking for the crap they're doing to the British people. Oh, I know. It's breaking my heart. They're sentencing people to jail over social media posts. Sweet Jesus. It's just, yeah, it's frightening. It is absolutely frightening where they're at right now. Unbelievable. Yeah, I saw that this morning. I came across it on Twitter and I thought, you know what? That is just too good not to share. You know what? Let me do one thing real fast. I'll even do you one better than that. And this is, you know me. If I find something I really like and I think you guys might enjoy it, I'll always pass it on. I just dropped it on the Rumble chat, and I'm going to drop it now on YouTube. It's going to pop in there here in a second or two. So yeah, if you want to use it, cool. If not, that's perfectly fine too. But yeah, I just saw that. I was like, absolutely, we're going to talk about that. We are absolutely going to talk about that. All right. I want to address the 800-pound gorilla in the room. And normally I don't get into this sort of thing, but this time I'm going to because I'm a little bit irritated. And there's nothing worse than when your host is irritated, because that means I get cranky. And I detest being cranky. I am a lovable soul. I am a person that I am a lover, not a fighter. And I don't like being irritated. But this is one of those moments that I've got to take some of my brethren on the right to task. Now, this is not directed at anybody in my audience right now, okay? This is not. Let me be very clear about this. No, that piece of human garbage. There will come a day when my verbal guns, get directed at that blatant anti-Semite. Not yet. It's probably coming one of these days. Fuentes is like a Chihuahua dog. And if I may be so bold as to say it, I'm a Great Dane. I'm not going to waste the energy to lift my paw to swat him away until he becomes so irritating I'm done with him. But anyway, Joe Rogan. I want to get into this whole Joe Rogan thing because this thing's just irritating the crap out of me. And I'm irritated not necessarily at Joe Rogan. I'm not. I'm not so much irritated at Joe Rogan. Okay. I'm irritated at some of my brethren on the right that just seem to be just all bent out of shape with Joe Rogan over something that he said. Now, for those of you not familiar with this controversy, okay. So Joe Rogan the other day is on his podcast. And he's having I forget who the guest was. Not even sure who the guest was. Not even really matter. But as per usual, Joe Rogan is sitting there sipping on coffee, maybe smoking a cigar. I don't know. And he's sipping on coffee, and he's got his headphones on, and they're sitting there talking into the microphones and all that stuff. And he gets off a 30-second comment that absolutely sent people on the right side of the political spectrum into an absolute tizzy. Okay, as only Joe Rogan can do. So with that setup, I want to play the clip, and then I want to get into this. Okay, so with that, 2, 1, and go.
That's just what they do. That's politics. They do it on the left. They do it on the right. They gaslight you. They manipulate you. They promote narratives. And the only one who's not doing that is Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
You a fan?
Yeah, I am a fan. Yeah, he's the only one that makes sense to me. He's the only one that he doesn't attack people. He attacks actions and ideas, but he's much more reasonable and intelligent. I mean, the guy was an environmental attorney and cleaned up the East River. I mean, he's a legitimate guy.
Okay. Now, I want to stop right there. And let's go over what he said. The only, they gaslight you, they lie to you, they everything else. That's what they do. There's only one person not doing that these days, and that's Robert Kennedy Jr. Oh, so you're a fan? Yeah, I'm a fan of Robert Kennedy Jr. He's a solid guy. He's this, he's that, etc. And TBA says, I didn't hear him. Oh, we're getting to that. We're getting to that. Okay. Well, somehow out of that 30-second comment, everybody on the right side of the political spectrum, or a significant portion of them anyway, get all bent out of shape and interpret that Joe Rogan has endorsed Robert Kennedy Jr. for president. And not just people on the right, by the way. Politico picked this thing up and ran with it. Check this out. Headline: RFK Jr. notches endorsements from top podcasters. Two major names in the podcasting universe, Joe Rogan and Russell Brand, threw their support behind the independent candidate. Article by Brittany Gibson, we have the following. Independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. earned endorsements from top podcasters Joe Rogan and Russell Brand in the presidential race. Kennedy has devoted the majority of his media strategy to alternate and independent creators. Well, that's because you guys in the major media won't let him on. And the investment is paying off with the endorsement in the critical last days of the campaign. Quote, I'm a fan. He's the only one that makes sense. Rogan said on a recent episode of his podcast, he's the only one that doesn't attack people. He attacks actions and ideas, but he's much more reasonable and intelligent. Though it is hard to say how much this will move the needle for Kennedy, whose polling has plummeted since Vice President Kamala Harris took over the Democrat ticket, it's a payoff for the campaign's longtime strategy. Kennedy has been a guest on both, as well as numerous other online programs hosted by conservative and independent commentators, including a sit-down with Ben Shapiro of The Daily Caller and comedian Theo Vaughn. These podcasters aren't always political, though Rogan previously endorsed Bernie Sanders for president and interviewed Kennedy. His content is eclectic, but the endorsements could bolster Kennedy's support from newly engaged potential voters. The public backings also come at a critical time for the campaign. In addition to public polling dips, his campaign has limited events to public speeches and hasn't held a campaign rally since May. But the first-time candidate remains active online and in the podcasting sphere. Okay, guys, I have a question, as I know you are the smartest audience on the internet. Can you tell me the one thing in that 31-second clip that you did not hear? I mean, I'll read part of Rogan's quote again, just for the sake of argument. I'm a fan. He's the only one that makes sense to me. He's the only one that doesn't attack people. He attacks actions and ideas, but he's much more reasonable and intelligent. Bingo! Bingo! He did not endorse Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Gypsy says Rogan did not mention one of RFK Jr.'s policies which are beyond liberal. I agree. I agree completely. He didn't endorse him. But people on the right just went crazy. They did. Yeah. In some of them, I don't disagree with this at all. I don't disagree with this in the slightest. I mean, this thing just absolutely, and then Tim Pool gets in on it just for grins. And now this was something of a joke. And he even told Robert Kennedy later, like, look, I respect you, I love you, but I'm trolling here. He said, yeah, now I'm going to vote for RFK Jr. And Trump decides to get in on it in his own way. It'll be interesting to see how loudly Joe Rogan gets booed the next time he enters the UFC ring, MAGA 2012. Okay. I want to talk about some of this for a minute. You know what? Who Joe Rogan does or does not endorse is none of my business. Now, don't get me wrong. Would I like to see him endorse the candidate I'm supporting? Yeah, sure. But that's sort of up to me to persuade him. Nah, this I agree with. This I absolutely agree with. Rogan is, and that's the irony of it. To me, okay, Rogan's influential, and he's not even trying to be. He's just trying to have conversations. He just wants to talk to people. He just wants to, like, I think you're interesting. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk to each other. Tell me what you're thinking. It just is the great irony of Joe Rogan's appeal is that he's not trying to have an appeal. He's just trying to have a conversation. I mean, he is the ultimate form of that line from that old Dave Mason song. Ain't no good guy, ain't no bad guy. There's only you and me, and we just disagree. And he's had people on his podcast who disagree with him. That's the part that just cracks me up the most. But who Joe Rogan endorses in one sense is none of my business. If Joe Rogan put to you this way. If Joe Rogan wants to endorse whomever, I may not agree with his decision, but that is his right to do it. Like I said, do I want to see him endorse the guy I'm supporting? Yeah, sure. But he's got to come to that conclusion on his own. Okay. Which, by the way, when all this hullabaloo went up, Joe Rogan had to go back out on Twitter and drop the following. For the record, this isn't an endorsement. This is me saying that I like RFK Jr. as a person, and I appreciate the way he discusses things with civility intelligence. I think we could use more of that in this world. I also think Trump raising his fist and saying fight after getting shot is one of the most American fucking things of all time. I'm not the guy to get political information from. If you want that from a comic, go talk to comic Dave Smith. He actually knows what he's talking about. See what I mean? That's the great thing about Rogan. He's influential, and he's not trying to be. He just wants to talk to somebody. I want to talk to you. You're interesting. Let's talk. It just really cracks me up. Now, to my brethren on the right, and again, this is not directed at anybody in my audience, okay? I get it. There's a lot of reasons. Yeah, no, I agree with this. I agree with this. We have reason to be very worried about this election. But I'll make an argument that Joe Rogan is the least of the worries. And again, maybe I'm wrong about this. That's fine. My bone of contention right now is not with the worry that we all have about how this election is going to go or what could possibly happen. So let me just be very clear about that. My bone of contention right now is with people just on the right forgetting something very important, and that is the right of individual choice. Okay? That's my problem. I mean, look. Supposedly, we're all, and again, not directed at anybody here. Supposedly, the right, broadly speaking, is all about individual freedom and liberty, which, okay, cool. I'm down for that. Okay, here's a guy who, by the way, didn't even endorse the guy. But because of who he is, everybody takes that comment and just, they're off in the other direction. you know? And again, it's a race this year that has profound implication for any number of reasons. Okay. But I'm just saying, to my brethren on the right, you can't really give Joe Rogan a lot of hell if he had been making an endorsement. You can't really give him a whole lot of hell for making an endorsement that's his own choice in the end. You may not like the result, but it is his choice. So just to some of my brethren on the right, be very careful you do not become the thing that you hate. I mean, everybody hates the hive mind mentality right now that is the political left in this country. Okay? And I get it. I can't stand it either. Because from that perspective, everybody's got to look the same, be the same, and more importantly, think and say the same. In this case, I wonder if we didn't commit the very same sin that we chastise the left for. Oh, everybody's got to be endorsing Trump. No, they don't. They don't have to endorse Trump. Would I like them to? And would I like them to come to that conclusion on their own and for their own reasons do it? Sure. Do I expect they're going to? Not necessarily. Do I even necessarily want them to all endorse Trump? No. When we get to that kind of point, I start getting scared because I'm starting to think that genuine persuasion has been lost and we're now doing this for some kind of community directive, just saying. Yeah. And thank you for your service, Robert. So yeah, I just, like I say, and again, I'm not mad. And anybody hearing this audience, I'm just like, guys, if he were endorsing anyone, that's his right to do it. And if he does endorse somebody other than your guy, well, isn't that more of a statement about your inability to persuade Joe Rogan as a reasonably intelligent human being why they should be endorsing your guy as opposed to the choice that he made? Just asking. But yeah, I saw all that hullabaloo yesterday. I'm like, jeez. It's like there are other things in the world that I think need to be talked about, and but again, that's just me. Maybe I'm looking at it from a wrong. No, I don't dispute at all that Joe Rogan's extraordinarily influential. And again, to me, that's the great irony of Joe Rogan. He's a man that's influential, and he's not really trying to be. I think that's one of the more interesting things about him. Yeah, I think you're right about this, Robert. I think there's snowflakes on both sides. Gypsy over on Rumble says, I despise being put in a MAGA box. I just want my freedoms back. Amen, sister. You get no argument from me on that one. You get no argument whatsoever from me on that one. WWG1 says, MAGA sees the disaster that would happen to this country if Trump loses in November. So anything they see that they think would diminish his chances, they panic. Understandable emotions. Yeah. Okay. I get that. I get that completely. TBA says that Rogan would influence young voters to not vote for Trump is the reason for a lot of MAGA-istas. No insult intended or directed at MAGA supporters, just saying, or maybe the MAGA crowd is a better way of saying, okay, fair enough. This, yeah. What's going on in England right now is frightening. And here's the part that breaks my heart. We are the descendants of English common law, English political tradition, English philosophy in some cases. And to watch what Great Britain is descending into, which is some kind of totalitarian hellscape, is heartbreaking for somebody like me. It genuinely is. All right, we're going to shift gears here in a second. Let me clear out some of this stuff I've got up here. and we'll get into some other things. And before we do, let me do my first quick commercial of the morning. My name is Brian Trippett. You have found your way to a weekend thing we do here on the electronic front porch that we call Front Porch Brunch. It's a gathering of like-minded newsies, and even people who disagree with us, by the way, to get together to talk about the news, talk about our views, see what's going on in the world, etc., and so on. Now, if you're here and you're not a subscriber to my channel, please do me a favor. Go ahead and subscribe on Rumble and YouTube. I'd greatly appreciate it. And subscribe on both, by the way. Because you just never know one of these days when that quaint little alternative social media platform known as YouTube is going to get a case of censorship and block me. Now, do I think it's going to happen anytime soon? No, not necessarily. But then again, crazier things have happened. So subscribe on YouTube and Rumble. Also, hit the bell for notifications, share the link around, hit the thumbs up, do all that fun stuff that helps me grow this channel. And from the professor, we have the following. Unfortunately, Great Britain's been like this for a while. They're jailing YouTubers for making jokes from 5 or 6. Jeez. Yeah, the frog. How do you boil a frog? Very slowly. Very slowly. All right. Now, the next segment I'm going to entitle Voters Trying to Reach Out to Their Political Leaders. And I don't know if you guys saw this in northern Minnesota, but the voters of northern Minnesota have reached out to Governor Walz concerning some of his views on the issues, especially now that he's become vice president. And they're trying to get him to understand the perspective from which they are coming. And I thought you guys ought to see this, because never let it be said that we, the American people, regardless of what state we find ourselves living in, are not always trying to let our elected officials know exactly what we think about them. So here's a message from folks in northern Minnesota to their governor, Governor Tim Walz. And you know, they just want him to know they are genuinely trying to look at the world from his point of view. I'm just saying. I'm not so certain that this might be the most effective way to get that point across. But again, Minnesotans are known for having they are known for having a very pointed sense of humor, and I think they're going to get their point across with this. Oh, by the way, did you guys know that you guys remember that video of Kamala Harris, taking the cell phone and contacting Governor Tim Walz to make the offer for him to become her vice presidential nominee? You guys remember that video, right? You've seen it. I think we played it here, as a matter of fact. But if not, I'm sure you guys have seen this as you travel around the interwebs. Well, it turns out that is a severely edited version of what really happened. Okay. Now, because this is the electronic front porch, and because people are prone to get me things that, or pass along things to me that they might not give to other members of the media. Well, now see, you call it a staged phone call. I say that what we saw, that the version of it that most of us have seen is very heavily edited. Someone passed along to me the unedited version of that phone call. And, for the purposes of setting the record straight, I wanted to bring it to you guys because honestly, look, no one likes being gaslit. No one likes being, given half the story. I think it is extremely important for me as your host to try and bring you all sides of the issue as much as I possibly can. So with that, I've got the unedited version of the phone call, and I want to play it for you. And I think this is going to give you a completely different perspective on what that phone call between Kamala Harris and Tim Walz is really like.
Hi, this is Tim.
It's Kamala Harris. Good morning, Governor.
Good morning, Madam Vice President.
Listen, you weren't my first choice. To be honest, you weren't even in my top 10. But no one else wants to run as my VP because they all know I'm going to lose. You are the only one who is willing to be my running mate.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically career suicide. But I did some dumb shit a few years back, and now I'm totally controlled by the deep state. And so they told me either I become your running mate or I get Epstein in a New York prison.
Now, the fact that we're both radical communists is a slight problem, but I got some instructions from Big Daddy Barack. Basically, we're going to pretend that you're a normal American white guy. There's a bunch of things you did that we got to run away from here. You passed a law requiring tampons in the boys' bathroom in schools. You basically cheered on the George Floyd rioters who burned down your cities. You implemented a snitch hotline during COVID. And Tim, you signed a law that allows the state to take custody of children if their parents refuse to let them transition. I mean, what the Tim? We got a lot of cleanup to do here. But listen, we already got the mainstream media gaslighting America into thinking that you're super normal.
This is America's dad, America's football coach, and the teacher that's cool enough without trying to be cool.
A lot of people have noticed this sort of down-to-earth, likable quality to him.
He's very moderate in Congress.
A moderate Democrat, a centrist, but a more centrist.
Kind of a centrist Midwesterner in persona.
That's pretty funny because I'm weird as f***.
American.
As I said, now, folks, if this is too much truth for me to lay on you guys, all right, I'll stop right here, because look, you can only take people as far as they want to go, and I know that I need to be fair to you, but I just want to make sure you guys were aware of what was happening here, so. Absolutely, Professor. Absolutely. I don't know who this Mr. Reagan guy is, but I tell you what, God, I love social media. It's fascinating to me. It's fascinating to me that in this crazy era in which we find ourselves, that meme makers and guys like Mr. Reagan and others are actually reaching people that otherwise you could never get to them. But there's a little bit more of this. We'll play a few more seconds of it just for the sake of having some fun.
Americans are dumb, Tim. They'll believe anything we tell them.
They are so dumb, right?
They think I'm black. Okay, so here's the plan. In order to hide your own weirdness, we want you to accuse Trump and J.D. Vance of being weird. Just say it over and over again.
Weird. And then they start being weird. They're weird. Donald Trump's weirdness. Very weird. It's just too weird. Weird. Okay, so how far left are we admitting to being here? Like, are we openly woke?
We have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke. Yeah. No. We're flip-flopping on everything right now. We want to keep the voters confused. You know when your GPS suddenly starts rerouting inexplicably and you have no idea where you're going and you're afraid your GPS might just drive you off a cliff? We're exactly like that.
Yeah, so like I say, ladies and gentlemen, this is just more proof of how gaslit we are. That, what we watched there, is the true unedited version of what that phone call was really like. And you know what? I'm like Christian Watson. God bless patriots like Mr. Reagan and others who are willing to bring us the truth of what is really going on here. WWG1 over on Rumble says, the weird thing is, this may not be a parody. You may be right. They may be crazy. All right. Now, speaking of Tim Walz, now I shouldn't laugh at this. The subject matter is very serious. How he's handling it is a whole other laughable matter. because Tim Walz has a very, very, very serious problem right now. Is it serious enough that I think it's going to force him off the ticket with Kamala? No. I've got the distinct feeling this is a ride and die situation. They're going to ride this thing all the way through to November. And whatever damage it does to them, we'll see what happens. Now, what I'm talking about is this charge that's been brought up against Tim Walz about stolen valor. In other words, his claim that he served overseas during a time of war, when the reality is he got out before he got deployed. And it's not so much that he got out before he got deployed. It's the manner in which he did it that's starting, and it's making veterans across this country, a lot of them angry, genuinely angry. Okay? Now I've got, and I'm going to go ahead right now before I even start this thing. I've got a clip from Twitter that contains a whole 10-minute interview that was done on CNN between one of their reporters and a gentleman named Doug Julin, Julin. He's the former command sergeant major for the Minnesota National Guard. He was there at the time, and he was Walz's commanding officer in the Minnesota National Guard and knows very full well what happened here. Now, I'm not going to play the whole 10 minutes. That's part of why I'm putting the link in chat for you guys. I want you, I mean, you can if you want to, but if I were you guys, I would watch this, because this is going to pretty much explain a lot about what happened and why. The whole 10 minutes will. But I want to play you one part of it. And the reporter, after they're about halfway through the interview with this clip, asks him a question, former command sergeant major Julin a question. And with that, this runs a couple of minutes, but I want you guys to hear this.
Major, now thinking about that timeline, I think it's important the way you've laid it out, because it sounds as though, yes, he was entitled to retire. There was a protocol where he was supposed to go to you say, for that approval, but there was somebody he went to instead of you, which has caused some level of consternation. But in the way that he's handled how he decided to retire, I do wonder what you make of the way his retirement is being characterized now by political figures and others who are saying that somehow he has stolen valor, number one, or that his retirement was an abandonment of his duties. How do you feel about the experience that you are describing to us right now being described as political talking points?
The real thing is at the level that he held at that time, which could have been either a first sergeant, but he was conditionally promoted to command sergeant major. Mm-hmm. He knew the rules or the policies or the procedures and the manner of how to address issues going forward. If this would have been an early entry, low level ranking individual, different story. We would have understood that, okay, he didn't understand the processes and the procedures. Tim Walz knew the processes and the procedures. He went around me and above and beyond me and went to get somebody to back him to get him out of there without, it was just a backdoor process that he handled against me or against the battalion out there.
Is your concern that it's, go ahead, but I do want to ask this question quickly, Sergeant Major, and I appreciate your time. But is your concern about the manner in which he did not speak to you, or his decision to retire, which he, as we've talked about, he would have been entitled to do? Which causes the most concern? Because that is the focus that so many people are wondering about, whether he has done something wrong in service or done something personally to offend you.
He did something wrong in service. As I stated before, he knew the policies and procedures and how we go to leadership and address issues or discuss issues and concerns out there. Again, backing up, he had told me, no, I'm going forward. We're going to go with the battalion and go from there. So I'm under the believing, he told me he was going forward. I'm underneath that believing that he's going forward. He went around me which he should have addressed it with me so we could help do some things out there.
Sergeant Major, this was
Okay, I want to stop here for a second, and I want to back this up a little bit for the sake of context. And we've looked at some of this earlier this week. Tim Walz was notified that he would be deployed along with his men to Iraq. Now, Tim Walz has served in the Minnesota National Guard for 20 years. So if he wanted to retire, he could have done it. Okay. The problem starts becoming that he gets notified of it. He gets promoted. And part of the conditions of the promotion is that you're committed to serving X amount of length of time for that rank that you've been promoted to stick. WWG1 Walz says he retired as an E9, even though he wasn't. That's the very definition of stolen valor. He gets word that he's going to be deployed, goes around his commanding, because his commanding officer, Julian, says, are you going to, look, there's word you're thinking about, retiring. Nope, I'm going forward. Okay, cool. They're putting everything together as far as personnel for the deployment and everything else that goes with it. And then Julian finds out that Walz not only got his retirement paperwork pushed through, but the guy went 2 grades higher than his commanding officer to get it done. He backdoored everybody here, got his paperwork pushed through, and retires before they deploy. Now, like I said, Walz had 20 years in. If he wants to retire, fine, retire. But it didn't just stop with how he did that, which, frankly, from my perspective, was crappy enough. Okay, you left a bunch of your guys hanging out to dry. One of them was a 19-year-old kid who would have been under your command over in Iraq. The kid got killed. But it's not just bad enough he did all that. Then he's going around claiming that he was a combat vet. Now, if you don't believe me, let me show you some clips. Okay. This first one's from 2007. Now, this is true. This is true. This is true. All right. This is a clip from 2007. Would have been just after the election. Nancy Pelosi. She's here. This is from C-SPAN. Okay. Now notice what happens in this clip.
We'll hear from Command Sergeant Major.
He was not a command sergeant major, but go ahead.
Tim Walz. And I was moved by some of what Tim has said in this. He said he taught these young people in high school, and then he had to lead them in the armed services. So he knows the potential of our young people.
Wait. I want to back that up a second.
He knows.
Wait a minute.
In the armed services. So he knows.
Wait a minute. There we go.
He said he taught these young people in high school, and then he had to lead them in the armed services. So
whoa! What do you mean? Whoa! Wait a second. What do you mean he led them in the armed services? He was never deployed. He never left. Oh, by all means, please send this to me. Please send it. Oh, all right, let's get back to this clip because this gets good.
He knows the potential of our young people and what we put at risk when we send them into harm's way without the equipment that they need. He will speak for himself, but I want him to know how much we all appreciate his service to our country, whether it's in the classroom or on the battlefield. Congressman.
Okay, now what? Whoa. And I want to, where was it? Where did I see this? Yes. Great point, Midmo. Pelosi directly thanked him for his service on the battlefield. Now, before we finish this, it's one thing if Nancy Pelosi had just said this off the top of her head, okay? Which, let's be honest, we're talking about Nancy Pelosi. At this stage of her life or her career, she could say almost anything off the top of her head. Now, this was back in 2007, so you're talking, 17 years ago? Nancy still would have been at the top of her game, okay? But I really have a hard time believing that Nancy Pelosi, with as many different members of the Democrat caucus as she had to deal with, that she'd be intimately familiar with every detail about every member of the caucus. What I'm getting at is this. Either Tim Walz told her that he had served on the battlefield, or somebody told her, but either way, it got back to her, and she was under the impression this guy has served in combat. Now, back to the clip. Walz does nothing to dissuade her on this. Listen to this.
And Tim Murphy. Congressman Tim Walz of Minnesota. I was thinking of his state.
That's what happens when you're roommates. Might start looking like. Well, thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the leadership here. Thank you to my brother-in-arm, Patrick Murphy, who is also my roommate. And I'd like to say a special thank you to Chairman Lantos, who an awful lot of wisdom. And as we were speaking about the idea of a resolution or a non-binding resolution, the chairman was so eloquent.
Now, notice what that says, and I'm gonna bring up something here in a minute. Afghan war vet. Really? He served in Afghanistan? This is news. I haven't heard about this. Have you guys? I mean, look, if he did, fine. If he did, fine. I'll stand corrected on this. But, if he was serving in Afghanistan, how come we haven't heard about it in the campaign yet? Okay, now I agree with this. They're going to try and make this a semantic argument. No, it's not a semantic argument. It's important. Yeah, he was employed. Yeah, not Afghanistan. Exactly. Oh, yeah, he's lying. He's absolutely lying. This guy is full of crap like a Christmas goose. And it gets worse. Now, I want to play Sean Parnell, himself a social media content creator. He talked about this very thing on his live stream, Battleground. Check this out from our good friend, Mr. Parnell.
What does that say right there? The Chiron. Tim Walz, 1st District, on C-SPAN. Afghan war veteran. That says, say it again. Tim Walz, Democrat, Minnesota, 1st District, Afghanistan war veteran. If he's willing to lie about this, what else is he willing to lie about?
Now, that is a great point. Now, I know that to some people, or more particularly a significant number of Democrats, this isn't going to make any difference. Okay? And as a matter of fact, they're all looking at us going, oh, you just hate the guy because he's a Democrat. No, I hate the guy because he's lying to you. And to Democrats who are watching this live stream, or you will watch this live stream, and by the way, I know you do, you're just never going to admit it. I want to ask you a question. I mean, look, it doesn't take a whole lot to put 2 and 2 together here to realize this guy is absolutely taking you for a ride on this particular issue, okay? He's lying to you. He never served in combat at all. He's trying to pass himself off as something that he is not. Now, to some of you Democrats out there, maybe this doesn't make a bit of difference to you. But for those of you that actually care about honesty, how does it make you feel to know that the guy who potentially could be a heartbeat away from the presidency will lie to you about something so fundamentally important, whether or not he served in combat overseas wearing your country's uniform. How does it make you feel? Oh, I don't care about that. I just care about this. Okay, just remember something. Remember what Sean Parnell just said. If he will lie to you about this, he'll lie to you about anything else. You know, ever since the presidency of Bill Clinton, some would make an argument that honesty in politics doesn't matter. No, I say Clinton did the opposite. He highlighted why it's still important. I would argue it's just not focused on enough. Okay? You Democrats out there say you care about this issue and that issue and okay, fine, whatever. Well, what makes you believe that if Tim Walz will lie to you about an issue you don't care about, that he won't lie to you about an issue you do care about? Well, he would never do that. Really? He wouldn't? He wouldn't do that. Oh, okay. All right. I happen to own swampland in Arizona. I'm trying to sell it by the acre. Can I put you down for 50 of it at $5,000 an acre? Just saying. All right, a little bit more on this. And here's the thing. If it would just have been that one clip with Nancy Pelosi and Tim Walz, that'd be one thing, okay? But it's more than that. It's a whole lot more than that, okay? It's so much more. Matter of fact, Gypsy just sent me something. I got to pop this up here. Hang on one second, because this now that I've got a chance to look at this real good, this looks really interesting. Really interesting. Hang on. Oh, this is going to be funny. This is going to be funny. Hang on. Nah, we'll just do it this way. Try this on for size. From Kurt Schlichter, himself a retired colonel of the U.S. Army. You should probably learn to spell the word sergeant. Also, sergeant is not a military job description, nor is correspondent. You should use the actual MOS title. You should also list all of J.D. Vance's awards. You are missing a bunch. You should explain why it's not a freaking joke that this fat, lying blue falcon stolen Valor clown's highest award as a retired alleged sergeant major, which he is not, is one of ARCOM. I'm not sure if you're stupid or if you just think everybody else reading your tweets is stupid. And yeah, apparently. Oh God, he doesn't know how to spell sergeant. Does he? Oh my God. He screwed up the spell. Tim Walz screwed up the spelling of the word sergeant. My God. Hey, by the way, you Democrats out there, not only is he a liar, he's an idiot. Good God. It just. Lord have mercy. Anywho. Yeah, thank you, Gypsy, for sending that over. I genuinely appreciate it. I mean, it just, yeah. And like I say, you know, and this point that I'm making is not necessarily original to me. I mean, Rich Barris was talking about this the other day. If it were just one C-SPAN clip, you could dismiss that and say, You could just say, this guy, okay, it's just one thing. It's not just that. Folks, there's more of this.
Hello, everyone. I'm Congressman Tim Walz. It's a real honor to be able to pay tribute to the 34th Red Bull Infantry Division and to your families and friends as you prepare to deploy in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. As a 24-year veteran of the National Guard and the Red Bull Division and a retired Command Sergeant Major.
You are not a retired Command Sergeant Major. There he goes again, folks. He's trying to pass himself off for something that he's not. But let's go back to the clip.
I'm especially proud of you. You are continuing a long and great tradition of service by the citizen soldiers of the 34th, a tradition symbolized by the fact that the 34th served the most consecutive days in combat, both in World War II and in Operation Iraqi Freedom. You are also doing something truly exceptional as you prepare for this mission of unprecedented scope in Iraq.
Okay, there's another one. I mean, now, like I said, do I think this is going to get him thrown off the ticket? No, not necessarily. But I think he's got problems. And I think this has got the potential to dog him all the way to November. Well, apparently, I'm not the only one who thinks he's got a problem. The Harris campaign put out a statement yesterday, and you're going to love this. You're going to love this. Gypsy, I just saw your comment on the YouTube side. I'm going to put that up here in a minute, okay? Okay. Oh, hello. Okay. Give me a second. Give me a second to Did you send that by way of Twitter? Minmo, how did you send that? How'd you send it? If you send it by Twitter, I'll just wait to get it. But see, this is why I love this audience. I love you guys. You're awesome. You genuinely are. Okay. Oh, you sent it in chat. Okay, it has not come through yet. It has not come through yet. If you can, tag me on Twitter with it. Tag me on Twitter, if you wouldn't mind. I mean, it might come through here in the chat, but I don't see it. It has not come through yet. Okay. The Harris campaign's put out a statement about this. They know they've got a problem. But their answer to it is just patently absurd. Okay? It's just patently absurd. And the answer they've given is basically this. Okay? This is from NBCnews.com. Tim Walz misspoke when he discussed using weapons in war, campaign says. The statement from the Harris campaign follows criticism of Walz's military record by Vice Presidential candidate Senator J.D. Vance and other Republicans. Okay, let's get into this. From Kelly O'Donnell and Zoe Richards, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz misspoke in a 2018 video circulated by the Harris campaign earlier this week that included the vice presidential candidates talking about his handling of weapons in war, a campaign spokesperson said Friday. The clarification comes after Republicans, led by veteran and vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance, have attacked Walz over his military record. Quote, Governor Walz would never insult or undermine any American's service to this country. In fact, he thanks Senator Vance for putting his life on the line for his country. It's the American way, the Harris campaign spokesperson said in a statement. In making the case for why weapons of war should never be on our streets or in our classrooms, the governor misspoke. He did handle weapons of war, and he believes strongly that only military members trained to carry those deadly weapons should have access to them, unlike Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, who prioritized the gun lobby over our children, the spokesperson said. The video clip of Walz's previous remarks show him discussing gun control and referring to his own military background. Now, that's the difference. See, it'd be one, and I know what the Harris campaign's trying to do here. It's real simple. They're trying to distract you. Well, he misspoke. He was talking about carrying weapons of war. He was trying to carry weapons of war and making sure that people... No. He was very specific in what he said in that video clip. I know the one they're talking about, okay? He was very, matter of fact, thank you, Robert. I'm going to pop this up here in one quick second. For those of you who do not remember what I'm referring to, Tim Walz was very, very specific in what he said. Okay? Give me one moment and I will pop this up here for you. Okay? I've got the clip. And why do I have the clip? Because I've got the coolest audience on the internet. Okay? the absolute coolest audience on the internet. And here you go. Well, there we go. All right. Listen specifically to what he says.
Hope woke up like many of you did 5 weeks ago and said, Dad, you're the only person I know who's in elected office. You need to stop what's happening with this. I'll take my kick in the butt for the NRA. I spent 25 years in the Army and I hunt. And I gave the money back, and I'll tell you what I have been doing. I've been voting for common sense legislation that protects the Second Amendment, but we can do background checks. We can do CDC research. We can make sure we don't have reciprocal carry among states. And we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, hold it. Those weapons of war that I carried in war? Let's play this again just to make sure.
And we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only.
One more time. One more time, people, just to make sure I'm not hearing this incorrectly. Here it is.
And we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only.
We can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war. You never carried weapons in war, sir. You were never deployed. Midmo, is this the clip you're talking about? Yeah, I think it is. I think it is the clip you're talking about. Okay, this is the clip. That's what I thought. He's not knowing. Again, if he were talking about this in the context of gun control and talking about, we shouldn't have weapons of war in the hands of our kids, okay, that's a whole different can of worms. But he was very specific on what he said. We can make sure that the weapons of war that I carried in war, you never carried weapons in war. You lying sack of crap. That's not the clip. Okay. I saw where you tagged me. Hang on, maybe. Aha! Here it is. Here it is. Okay. All right. Minmo, I'm an idiot. You know how I am. Hang on. Let me get this pulled up here. We got Midmo has contributed with a clip. Daggone, I love you guys. You are just awesome this morning. You are absolutely awesome. Hang on. Let me get this thing pulled up here. Working on it. Okay. Now, got a clip here from where this is when Tim Walz was in Congress. Okay. All right. And now okay. He pauses at the 25-20-second mark of his explanation. All right. Now, when you say he pauses at the 25-20-second mark during his explanation, which is the direct tell, he's okay. All right, let's see it. All right, hang on. Oh, tell you what, you guys are on a roll this morning. Woo! I love it. All right. Folks, this is from our good friend Midmo, and let's see what old Tim Walz has to say on this one.
Draft.
What's your background, and how did somebody from Nebraska end up in Minnesota?
Yeah, well, my wife's from Minnesota, so she took me there. Actually, it was based on the educational system in Minnesota was one that we kind of aspired to teach in. So I ended up in southern Minnesota. My wife's been there for many generations.
And your military background?
I spent 24 years in the National Guard, some of that full time. I was an artilleryman. I deployed in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. My battalion provided base security throughout the European theater from Turkey to England.
Wait a minute. I want to back that up again. Make sure everybody's hearing this.
4 years in the National Guard, some of that full time. I was an artilleryman.
Back it up a little more.
For many generations.
And your military background?
I spent 24 years in the National Guard, some of that full time. I was an artilleryman. I deployed in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. My battalion provided base.
You're right, Midmo. You're absolutely right. He does pause right there. One more time. I'll back this up to about the 15-second mark, because that's when the host asks him about his military record. Here we go one more time.
There for many generations.
And your military background?
I spent 24 years in the National Guard, some of that full time. I was an artilleryman. I deployed in support of Operation Enduring Freedom.
Yeah, TBA over on Rumble says, quote, I deployed in Operation Enduring Freedom. No, you didn't, but let's finish the rest of it.
My battalion provided base security throughout the European theater from Turkey to England in the early stages of the war in Afghanistan. And that same battalion is now in Iraq at this time.
Next call, Lawton, Oklahoma.
Okay. Guys, this isn't going away. Now, like I said, is it going to get him bounced off the ticket? I rather doubt it. But he got a problem. Again, and I know what the Democrats are going to do here, and I think Ruben is absolutely correct with his assessment. They're going to say, "Oh, you guys are getting hung up about semantics. This should be an argument about gun control." No. This man has claimed that he was deployed overseas in Operation Iraqi Freedom. This man, in reality, never went overseas in deployment for Operation Iraqi Freedom. But yet, for the past, what is it? We're now 2024, he came back to this. For the past 17 years, this guy's been passing himself off as something that he is not. And again, for you Democrats out there, this is not a big deal. It's not an issue. It's not an issue I care about. When are we going to start talking about this issue and that issue? Okay. I don't care about the military. I don't care if he served in Iraq or Afghanistan or if he even served at all. Yeah, but what you ought to care about is the honesty of the people at the top of your ticket or in your party in general. This guy is claiming something that's not true. He's lying to you. I mean, look, I'm a conservative. I'm used to Democrats lying to me, okay? You guys are starting to wake up to the reality of what's going on in your party. Y'all been lied to for years over there, and you're just now finding out how much you're being lied to, okay? Oh, there's nothing wrong with Joe Biden. Joe Biden's perfectly fine. Joe Biden's senile. Get him out of here. You see my point? If Tim Walz will lie to you about something like this, an issue that you claim you don't care about, then why the hell should you expect him to be honest about anything else? Issues you do care about. See your problem? Look, he's a Democrat. I expect him to lie to me. Okay? You know, how can I tell? I mean, the old joke among people on the right is, how can I tell when a Democrat's lying? Simple, their lips are moving. You know, but you guys don't understand. You Democrats don't understand. You Democrat voters, you don't understand this yet. You do not realize what your party's been doing to you. Oh, quit trying to stir the pot. I'm not trying to stir the pot. I'm trying to tell you the truth. Now, whether you want to believe me or not is a whole other question, but I'm telling you right now, this guy is lying through his teeth. And if a 52-year-old man sitting in the privacy of his own study at his own house can have, look at some clips that not only can he find on his own, but people are sending him. And by the way, thank you guys this morning. You were awesome. I love you. But if we can sit here and put this together for ourselves, what, you mean you can't do this? And I'm not trying to insult you. I genuinely am asking you a question. We can put two and two together. Is it that you can't do it or you don't want to do it because you're afraid of the implication? Sorry. It's a fair question. TBA says Dem voters are about to wake up to how awful their party leadership is. TBA, that is truer than people realize. That is absolutely truer than people realize. Oh, he can't even get the terminology right. Yeah. Yep. Yes, my dear. Yes, my dear. Now, this is an interesting point. For this long to not be held accountable for the semantics and to be benefited by the level of alleged in his respect in politics, he should not be having this come out now. Well, but see, Midmo, that brings up a really good point. I mean, how do I want to phrase this? Okay, I think I know how I want to do this. Normally, in a presidential campaign, there's like an 18-month period where the eventual nominee of the party is put through a meat grinder. Okay, they've gone through campaign events, they've done things with the press, they have gone through debates, they've been at candidate forums, they've spoken at the Rotary Luncheon, whatever it may be. But who they are and what their positions are and their record is fleshed out. The Democrats right now, with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, have the best and the worst of both worlds. It's great in one sense because they have an extraordinary, and I mean extraordinarily, compressed time frame in which to run a campaign. Okay? The blessing of that is that you can't really pick through somebody's record real good. You can't put them through the grinder and make them, but that's the other side of that coin. For the blessing, that only works if you can keep this stuff hidden. The problem that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have is you're not going to keep this stuff hidden. Not in this day and age. Okay? I mean, I'll give you an example that I frequently will use. 2004, about 10 days before the election, Dan Rather goes on 60 Minutes and drops a story about then George W. Bush being in the Texas Air National Guard, and Dan Rather claims he has documents that show that W or his family pulled strings on W's behalf and made sure that W was not deployed to Vietnam. Immediately, and I mean immediately after that story ran on 60 Minutes, the blogosphere back in the day absolutely went to work looking at Rather's evidence. And they started to find out, hey, wait a minute. The type font on this letter, this thing looks fake. Oh, that's not true. We're 60 Minutes. We're CBS News. We don't. And before you knew it, the whole thing blew up and everybody realized, holy crap, Dan Rather took a bunch of fake documents, went on national television, and tried to smear W. And Dan Rather, it got so bad, Dan Rather had to leave CBS News in disgrace. Here's a guy whose career with CBS News had gone back to the 1960s. Okay? He and Roger Mudd were there co-anchoring the night of Johnson's speech where Johnson announces he's not running for president anymore. This is a guy who had covered the Vietnam War in Vietnam. This is the guy in Dan Rather who had succeeded Walter Cronkite. We're not talking about some low-level, beat reporter for CBS News. We're talking about one of the big three anchors. And back then, it still mattered. It was Brokaw at NBC, Jennings at ABC, and Rather at CBS. And Dan had so thoroughly disgraced himself, he left. In large part because the blogosphere looked at his evidence and went, you're full of crap. That's what I'm saying. That's the problem that Harris and Walz have right now. For the next 90-something days, if it starts coming out, they haven't got time to be able to spin this and everything else, which we've got an article from the New Yorker here in a little bit that even the press is starting to pick up on the problem they've got. Yeah, bye-bye Dan Blathers. Oh, they're absolutely desperate right now to scrub his record. Now, funny thing is, that vetting process happened in 2019. Ain't happening now. TBA says, I remember when Rather was a Vietnam correspondent, his first big gig in news journalism. Yeah, he was over there covering the Vietnam War. you know. And by the way, Dan's still around today. And you know what? I want to give Dan Rather credit for something, which, I mean, I know this is going to surprise some of you listening to me. When Dan Rather really wants to do it, Dan, he can do a good interview. I mean, last time I checked in on him, he was doing a regular thing for Axios TV or something like that. But I mean, he's interviewed a lot of very famous people, musicians, authors, etc., pop culture personalities. Dan Rather does a really good interview. He really does. He really does an amazingly good interview. But yeah, all kinds of interesting stuff. But yeah, that's the problem they've got. They've got 90 days left, and they haven't got time to thin this stuff out. Now, I want to say something else about Tim Walz. He's a liar. It's being proven to everybody that he's a liar. But honestly, as important as the stolen valor issue is, and it is, I'm not, for those veterans, Robert, for those veterans out there in my audience right now, I'm not saying it's not important, but there's something worse about Tim Walz that to me is the bigger reason why this guy should never, ever be let near power. And I'll show you what it is. This is a picture from the burning in Minneapolis in 2020. This was a picture taken during the George Floyd riots. Here's another one. And another. And one more for good measure. Minneapolis burned to the ground in response to the death of George Floyd. Yeah, the mostly peaceful protest in Minneapolis, TBA says. Yeah. I've been to Minneapolis. This was years ago. Oh yeah, he let his state burn. He did. He absolutely let it burn. And by the way, yeah, let's put this up real quick. This is from the Post Millennial. Tim Walz delayed sending in the National Guard to quell the Minneapolis riots after George Floyd's death. His daughter leaked law enforcement movement to the protesters. Article by Libby Emmons. This is from, I guess, about 4 days ago. As the city of Minneapolis burned, Governor Tim Walz spoke to Minnesotans about institutional racism and his complicity as a white man. He fueled the fires of the riots by giving power to the people in the streets, asking them to stop burning things down instead of using law enforcement tools to tell them to. When Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey requested the National Guard on May 27th, 2 days after George Floyd's death, Walz said he would consider it. As the city burned down, he took his time on sending in the National Guard, instead telling rioters their pain was justified and praising the cell phone users who filmed George Floyd's arrest. Fire crew and cops were not out preventing the damage, and over 3 nights, the New York Times reported, a 5-mile stretch of Minneapolis sustained extraordinary damage. The police precinct house itself was set on fire after the mayor gave orders to evacuate the building. A month later, the city was still struggling to understand why it happened. Walz signed the order to deploy the guard, but not until the damage was already done. It was after he begged people to leave the streets and stop rioting, and they did not, that he sent in law enforcement. By signing his executive order, Walz said, "It's time to rebuild the city." As well he should. As well he should. Oh, I agree with you on the stolen valor thing. Nobody should let up on it. But to me, there's an even bigger reason why you don't let this guy near power. And this is my problem with Walz. Now, I'll get to some more of this here in a minute. But my problem with Walz is very simple. Look, we talk about a lot of things on this channel, okay? And maybe some of them I don't talk about enough. But at the heart of my belief is that the Almighty God gives you and me and everyone else in this world certain rights. Jefferson defined them as unalienable. They're universal to everyone. Now, he went on to define it as the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. John Locke, in his second treatise on government, John Locke wrote that men have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of property, possessions. Tim Walz is not going to protect your right to your property. And perhaps more fundamental than that, Tim Walz is not going to protect your right to live in peace. Oh, come on, Front Porch. You're being awful harsh about this. I mean, you're just because he's a Democrat. Oh, no, 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 no. No. Hold up right there. I am not saying this because he's a Democrat. Crap, I'd say the same thing about a Republican. But the reason that I can safely say this about Tim Walz, he proved it in 2020. Tim Walz proved to God and the world that he doesn't care about property that you have worked your life and paid money for to try to improve and better and grow your personal wealth. He has proven he doesn't care about your safety and your life. For days on end, this governor of Minnesota let Minneapolis burn to the ground. And the people most disproportionately affected were small business owners in African American and ethnic communities. He's not going to protect your right to life and to live peacefully and to protect your property. He's proven that. And his justification for all of it, hey, you don't believe me.
A society that does not put equity and inclusion at the center of it is certainly going to eventually come to the places where we're at. This is a moment of inflection. It's a moment of real change. It's a moment that those folks who are out there demanding this are not going to take a commission or a report. They're going to want fundamental change. And that is what I think that's one of the exciting things in the midst of all this. You can feel a sense of optimism coming.
Optimism? The man is standing in the State Emergency Operations Center, a place where people look to, where they expect leaders of government, be they mayors, city council members, county sheriffs, state police officers, governors in particular, to stand there and reassure the people that the government that they pay their taxes to, that they obey the laws of that state. People are looking to them to reassure them that it's going to be okay. We're going to stop this. There were people out on the streets of Minneapolis and St. Paul who were trying to burn the place to the ground. That's not a sense of optimism. That's a sense of anarchy. Those murdering thugs, howling barbarians, were trying to loot, kill, and destroy. Please explain to me where the optimism is in that. Optimism? The only thing they were optimistic about is if they could burn the next building over. They thought they had pretty good odds. The reason they thought they had pretty good odds is because the governor's doing nothing to stop them. There's your sense of optimism. Hey, guys, I feel pretty good about our chances of burning down those 3 buildings. We've already got this one on fire. Let's see what we can do about that. Well, I don't know why you feel that way. I'll tell you why I feel that way, because the governor ain't doing shit to stop us. In that moment, the citizens of your cities and your states weren't looking for optimism. They were looking for you to stand these howling barbarians down and stop them. And instead of standing with the law-abiding citizens of your state and your cities, you stood with the howling barbarians. And you have the gall to stand up and somehow pretend that you're going to protect the lives and property of the citizens of the United States if you become vice president. You wouldn't protect the lives and the property of the citizens of Minneapolis or the state of Minnesota when you were governor. A pox on you. You deceitful snake in the grass. Just, these people make my blood boil. Oh, and by the way, and this will give me a chance to calm down. You want to know what Minneapolis looked like when the howling barbarians were done? Look at that. Look at that. Smoke billowing up from everywhere. Windows broken. Businesses destroyed. People are wearing bandanas to keep the smoke out of their lungs.
Your relation to this?
That, ladies and gentlemen, is Minneapolis. Yeah. So you Democrats out there and you independents, you're thinking about voting for him? I want you to think about everything we're showing you right now. Because I'm telling you something. I'm telling you, he's not going to protect you. He doesn't give a damn about you. He didn't give a damn about the people of his own state. What makes you think he gives a damn about you? Gypsy, I just saw that. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm intrigued enough to look. Because I need something to laugh at, and hopefully that's what you sent me. Sorry, folks. It's just stuff like that just... He's such a liar. He is such a liar. Tim Walz is a lying sack of crap. He genuinely is. Oh, yeah. Actually, it's kind of funny, Gypsy, because what you just sent me kind of is going to lead into our next segment. This will actually give me a chance to breathe and then do a transition to that segment. So tell you what, let me... Well, I don't know about this, but I appreciate that. Some people would be insulted to be compared to Alex Jones. Actually, I take that as a high compliment because he is a superb broadcaster. Really is. Has been for years. Another one of those gentlemen that I learn something from every day. And not just information per se, but just style and technique. Anytime I can catch Jones, yeah, it's definitely a learning experience. Anyway, breathe. Okay, I'm going to be all right. It's about 10 minutes after 12 on Saturday. First of all, thank you for being here. Second of all, you've survived me ranting and raving and pointing and clicking and jipping and whatever else. And at the end of all that, you may still yet be asking yourself, who is this crazy guy in that handsome black fedora? Well, first of all, my name is Brian Trippett. In social media, I'm known as the Front Porch Conservative. And if you're still here after all this time, you know what you really need to do? You ought to just go ahead and subscribe to my channel on YouTube and on Rumble. We do this thing on Saturday morning called Front Porch Brunch, and we talk about the news, we play clips, we laugh together, in some cases cry together. We share information, as this audience has been doing all morning long, and I love it when you guys are this interactive with me. This is just great. You guys are fantastic. We're on Rumble, we're on Twitter, we're on YouTube, so if you haven't done it yet, go ahead and subscribe to my channel on Rumble and YouTube. Hit the bell for notifications, hit the thumbs up, share it around. Let's see if we can grow this audience into something big, beautiful, and wonderful. Absolutely. Become a part of Fedora Nation. And all it takes is for you to hit that subscribe button. So there you go. Okay. I think I've got my blood pressure back in order, so let's move on now. Do I have it? Well, do I have anything in the glass? Oh, the glass is empty. That's not good. The rum is gone. Why is the rum always gone? I don't know. There we go. Now I got some water. Now I got some agua. Okay. So Kamala Harris and Donald Trump had dueling events last night, which is kind of unusual. It's the first time they've crossed paths, so to speak. Now, granted, they were in different cities, different states. You can make out of it what you want to. Okay. Now, a lot was said of Kamala Harris's rally in Phoenix. It's Phoenix, Arizona last night. Okay. And we do have a clip of Kamala speaking. And I tell you what, Kamala's got a problem. She's got a Palestinian problem, and I don't know that this is going to go away. Now, this clip isn't necessarily about that. But, man, I tell you one thing. There is nothing that this woman won't say to try to get ahead. And if you want some proof of that, here's from last night in Phoenix, Arizona. Check this out.
Donald Trump does not want to fix this problem. Be clear about that. He has no interest or desire to actually fix the problem. He talks a big game about border security, but he does not walk the walk.
Madam Vice President, may I remind you that Donald Trump has been down to the border more times than you have. He's walked more steps around the border than you have. Donald Trump has built more miles of border wall than you have. Donald Trump enacted policies that had the border under control, which is more than we can say for you when you where the borders are. Okay? So you standing there saying he doesn't walk the walk? You know, I knew there was nothing that you guys won't say to try to get elected, but even I thought you guys had a sense of shame. Oh, that is exactly what she's saying, my dear. That is exactly what she's saying. And now we'll get back to the rest of the clip. You know, if you don't believe what I'm telling you, listen to it from her own lips.
Earlier this year, everybody here knows, earlier this year we had a chance to pass the toughest bipartisan border security bill in decades. But Donald Trump tanked the deal. Because he thought by doing that it would help him win an election. But when I am president, I will sign the bill. So Arizona, ours is a fight for the future, and it is a fight for freedom.
Freedom. Yeah. Oh, I know. I know. I know. I agree with you. I agree with you totally. She is a lying sack of crap. Well, what she's saying is Donald Trump was going around behind the scenes telling Republican lawmakers don't vote for it. Don't hold back, Robert. Tell me what you really think. Yeah. Oh, it's just mind-boggling. Now we seem to have some skeptics over on Rumble. TBA says she's standing in front of a giant green screen. She's talking in a nearly empty hall. Her audience was a fake audience laugh track. My God, can no one see that her audience is AI? Well, I will say this. I'm not going to go so far as to say that audience is AI, but that audience isn't nearly as big as she's trying to convince you it is. And also, there's something funny about that audience, too. But we'll get to that in a minute. Owen Schroyer of InfoWars had a very interesting observation about her huge crowd size. I'm not going to play the whole clip, but he does bring up something very interesting about the arena in which she was in. Take a listen to this.
And before you even panic too much about this Phoenix, Arizona rally, I want you to look closely at these videos and notice that the long end of the arena is blocked off. That's where most of the seats are. So they have the lower bowl and a horseshoe around the stage, and they have the two ends of the arena open, and the long ends of the upper bowl are closed. So no, it's not a full arena. No, they did not fill the entire arena of 20,000 seats. That is a lie. They probably got a little more than half of that. Again, Donald Trump, remember what they do to Trump too. They take a picture 5 hours before the rally and they say, look, it's empty. And of course the thing is filled. They don't show you the lines for miles outside of the venue 10 hours before it even opens. Do not fall for this Democrat propaganda, folks.
And he's not wrong about that. We've got some other images here that I think you guys need to see. And one of them is, let me see if I can find it here real fast. Oh, yeah. Here we go. You guys do know that they curtained off the very top of the arena, right? Those curtains that you're seeing. Now, this person's making a joke, but it says Trump ordered his team to literally cover up entire levels of venue to make it appear as if there aren't thousands of empty seats. Yeah. Unbelievable. I mean, look, I don't dispute the fact she's getting big crowds. I don't think they're nearly as big as she's trying to convince everybody is. Okay. But my point is this. It's not plus there's something odd about this audience. Generally speaking. Have you guys noticed this? Now, I'm going to put this up here a little bit so you can see this a little bit better. And there's a clip down here. This is Kamala Harris's rally in Glendale, Arizona. Most of the attendees appear to be middle to older age white women. This is the new hype with Kamala. We have to stay focused and vote. The media is trying to hide the fact that Kamala and Walz are not moderate Democrats. If we let this happen, we will not be able to vote our way out of communism. Now, I want you to look at this. Here we go. Now,
okay, we got she doesn't start for another 5 hours. It's getting really full. I think it's going to be a full house.
Okay, I'm noticing something very simple about that. Where are the brothers? Why is there now, granted, that's several hours before the event. I get it. Okay. But even the clips that I've seen, and again, I'm trying to be totally honest about this. I don't see a lot of African American representation. Oh, hang on. Oh, my. Would you look at that? Hang on. We've got some more information about this crowd, which is very interesting. I'll pop this up here. Hang on. Okay. Hang on a minute. Reply to this casting call with interest, resume, and links. Tell us a bit about yourself. We'd love to get to know you. Our casting department. Please do not submit your audition submission. We hope to hear from you. Team Happy Democrats. Share the happy.org. Compensation, the pay is $225. happydemocrats.org? All right, hell, now I am intrigued. We're Democrats and we choose to be happy. The world's first political wellness and rally site for Democrats. Oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. You have absolutely got to be kidding me. She doesn't look happy. He definitely doesn't look happy. Now she looks happy. Oh my God. These people. Oh, given what he's smoking, he's very happy. Oh my God. He doesn't look happy. They're paying them to show up. Lord have mercy. Unbelievable. You know, I would. Okay, now there is a community note on here. HappyDemocrats.org is a group that posts on Craigslist positions for paid rally attendance. $225. Oh God, you've got to be kidding me. Christian, this looks legit. I mean, look, I'll tell you what I'll do. I mean, you can look at it for yourself. I will drop this in chat on both sides. Y'all make up your mind. You guys look at it for yourselves. Just take it for what it's worth. Oh, now the website seems quite legitimate. The happydemocrats.org. Oh my goodness. The world's first political wellness and rally site for Democrats. Christian, this website looks legit, dude. I am not kidding. Unbelievable. It's got a USPO box out of Broomfield, Colorado. Okay. I mean, like I say, look at it for yourselves. Make up your own mind. You're completely free to disagree with me. Okay? Completely free to disagree with me. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Dude. It's like, this is crazy. They talk about people on the political right being in a cult. I don't want to ever hear that from you guys again. Happy Democrats. We're happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy. Oh my God. Run away. I so need some. You know, I just thought of the palate cleanser for this weekend. I need to rewatch Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I really do. It just hit me. Man, I won't say I've been in a funk, but it just hit me if I am in a funk, which I don't necessarily think I am, but just kind of, this stuff kind of makes you crazy. WWG1 says, Ren and Stimpy mixed with Monty Python. Hey, we're all about diversity here on the Electronic Front Porch. Try the Life of Brian. I should, but for some reason I have got Holy Grail on the brain. So, yeah. Oh yeah. This is just crazy. Just crazy. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. All right. So that's Kamala Harris's rally. Now we got a couple or three clips from the Trump. Hold on a minute. Dear, I've got to check it out. I will. Yes, I have seen A Man for All Seasons. Paul Schofield's great Oscar-winning turn as Sir Thomas More. It's been forever since I watched. Let's see. Paul Scofield, Robert Shaw. I believe Orson Welles was in that as well. But yeah, great movie. Absolutely great movie. This is back when Hollywood knew how to make those kind of films. Oh, yeah, it's been forever since I watched it. But yeah, I know them. I know exactly the one you're talking about. I just recently rewatched Beckett. And Peter O'Toole. Oof, God, I love O'Toole, especially as Henry II in that film. He was absolutely on fire. Absolutely on fire. And don't get me wrong, I love Richard Burton. Richard Burton's one of my all-time favorites. But my God, one of the worst tragedies in the history of the Academy Awards, that Peter O'Toole never won the Oscar outright. Ugh. Sorry, folks. I'm getting a little sidetracked here. Before we get to the clips from the Trump rally, there is something a little bit weird when it comes to Kamala Harris. And I'm going to play this. I saw this the other day. Look, do I respect discipline as part of being a messenger in a political campaign? Absolutely. But there comes a line between being disciplined and being mechanical. And right now, Kamala Harris is absolutely being mechanical. And if you don't believe me, watch this.
Good to be back in Pennsylvania. It really is good to be back in Wisconsin. It is so good to be back in Michigan. I am clear. The path to the White House runs right through this state. And listen, I am clear. The path to the White House runs right through this state. I took on perpetrators of all kinds. I took on perpetrators of all kinds. I took on perpetrators of all kinds. I know Donald Trump's type. I know Donald Trump's type. In this campaign, I proudly put my record against his any day of the week. In this campaign, I'll tell you, I will proudly put my record against his any day of the week. Are you ready to make your voices heard? Ready to make your voices heard? Are you ready to make your voices heard? When we fight, we win! Oh, it is.
Guys, they are absolutely refusing to let her speak off the chain. TBA says she's got her teleprompter speech down pat by now. Yeah, and word for word, the exact same speech. And it's becoming noticeable. It's becoming very noticeable. Matter of fact, I've got a story here from the New Yorker that ran a couple of days ago, and I'm going to drop this one in chat too, because this is good. Oh yeah, she's absolutely fake. She's absolutely fake. And this is a really good article. And it asks the headline to the article asks a great question. How generic can Kamala Harris be? The vice president has answered few direct questions since becoming the presumptive nominee. That is probably good for her campaign, but not for the voters, says J. Caspian Kang. And with that, we have the following. For the first couple of weeks, I've been circling around this question. Does it actually matter if Kamala Harris stands for something? The days that have passed since she became the presumptive nominee for the Democrats have been filled with palace intrigue, the occasional stirring speech, a bounce in the polls, and a vice presidential pageant that, quite frankly, got a bit boring, as a handful of perfectly fine candidates tried very hard to be nice to each other. We know Campaign Kamala is about freedom, which her first ad defines in terms that align entirely with the policy preferences of the Democrat Party. So, for instance, the freedom to own whatever kind of gun you want is superseded by, as the ad puts it, the freedom to be safe from gun violence. This is totally reasonable, but linguistically, perhaps speaking, a bit of a stretch. We know Harris was a prosecutor. We know Donald Trump and his running mate, J.D. Vance, are, quote, weird. But we know that Harris has erased much of Trump's lead in the swing states and that things are looking up. But that's about the extent of it. Harris has shown more talent for giving speeches than the last time she ran in 2019, and her campaign and fellow Democrats deserve credit for her rise in the polls amid heavy skepticism from many, including myself, that they could pull off a candidate switch. But we should also be honest about what we're dealing with here. In tennis, a pusher is a player who safely returns the ball over the net again and again and again, waiting for an increasingly frustrated opponent to make a mistake. This appears to be Campaign Kamala's strategy. Don't make any unforced errors, keep things vanilla, and eventually Trump or Vance will implode. Harris, as Vance has repeatedly pointed out on Twitter with the hashtag Where's Kamala, has taken almost no questions from reporters and has spent most of her time giving stump speeches at rallies. She has not explained what exactly happened in Washington after Joe Biden's disastrous press debate, or why she has changed her mind on fracking, which she once said she would have banned, and has wobbled on Medicare for all, which she once supported, or what she plans to do with Lena Khan, the head of the Federal Trade Commission, who is said to be unpopular among some of Harris's wealthy donors, or much about what a Harris administration would do to handle the wars in Ukraine and the Middle East. I suspect that a majority of voters don't really care about the answers to these questions, or at least not in any serious way. On the Democrat side, there's an energized, good feeling about Campaign Kamala, to a degree not felt on a presidential level since Barack Obama's last race. I'll agree with that statement. And nobody wants to mess that up with debates about policy. Harris is popular, Biden was not. Harris gives the Democrats a shot at beating Trump. Biden most likely did not. Most of the liberals I know seem to be enveloped in a pleasant, if thin, fog in which concerns and criticisms melt away. The believers do not need explanations as long as Harris's poll numbers remain encouraging, which is fine. Politicians have certainly run on less than being the figure, however generic and undefined, who can stop Trump. Going a little bit further into this article. As wildly different as Harris and Trump are, their campaigns seem to share a degree of indifference to the specifics of what the candidates are saying. But because both campaigns realize that many of their voters are unconcerned about the details, or at the very least, unlikely to be moved by them. What matters to many voters right now is their hatred and fear, however justified, of the opposing candidate, and the fun they have calling the other side weird, dangerous, and deranged. Harris and Trump, under differing circumstances and in different ways, have floated what was once the perfunctory and deeply unsexy muck of campaigning on a platform, or for some particular issue. Let's see, going a little further. Here it is. Here's the one I'm looking for. The task of filling in what Harris prefers to leave blank would usually fall to the press, but to date, there have not been particularly loud or widespread calls for her to sit down and answer questions, as there were for Biden after his catastrophic defeat. I think it's fair to say, so far, the mainstream press has handled Harris quite differently, or quite gently. This is not, in my view, a matter of partisan leaning, although I should say that, having worked in the media for about 15 years at several institutions, I have not had a single coworker who openly supported Trump. I don't even know of anyone who I would suspect voted for him. But if the media's liberal makeup inured all Democrat candidates from criticism, we wouldn't have the endless coverage of Hillary Clinton's emails or a relentless call for Biden to withdraw from the race. You could argue that the overwhelming push in the media to remove Biden simply had to be followed by the lionization of his successor. But the media, especially those of us who churn out opinions for a living, cannot actually achieve that level of coordination. I cannot imagine a more difficult and thankless task than trying to get the columnists of America to do anything, much less as a team. There is certainly bias in the mainstream press, but it tends to follow more haphazard and chaotic patterns. This is not the type of column in which a writer leans in and gives advice to the Democrat Party. If it were, I would simply point out the positive signs. Raucous crowds at Walz's introductory speech in Philadelphia, enthusiasm for Harris I've seen across the country, the renewed belief among Democrats that maybe they can top Trump for good. But I wonder how the mainstream press will respond to a scandal or even a hiccup in the Harris campaign. And you know what? That's a very fair question. It's like I said earlier, she hasn't been vetted in 2024. What happens if something comes along that nobody saw coming about Kamala Harris? Okay. What happens? What does she do? What does the campaign do? I mean, look, they're having trouble dealing with this stolen valor stuff about Tim Walz right now. Doug Emhoff, Kamala's husband, has now been reported to have fathered a child out of wedlock. What's going to happen if some torpedo out in the water finds its way to make a broadside on Harris? What are they going to do? So I think that's a very fair question. Anyway, back to the article. If it turns out that Harris has been maintaining an idiosyncratic and not entirely secure approach to email, or if a relative dropped off a laptop filled with salacious images for repair and they were shared with the New York Post, how would the media handle the story? More plausibly, if campaign Kamala sticks with this strategy of keeping the candidate on message through speeches and answering few questions from the press corps, will reporters just shrug and let it go? Should we care that she has not done a sit-down interview or had an answer to a substantive policy question in weeks? Okay. And all of those are completely and absolutely fair questions. I mean, it's a great article, and I really recommend it to you, okay? Look, I'm going to give you my opinion, and I could be dead wrong about this, okay? Lord knows I have been known to be wrong on occasion. Not that many, but on occasion. As he says, rolling his eyes. I don't think she can do it. I don't think she can go 90 days and not give somebody an interview. And frankly, if I'm Trump, I would do what has been recommended by other content creators, Lionel in particular. Just start asking her questions at the debate. Hey, Kamala, do you think the Israelis are committing genocide in Gaza? Hey, Kamala, what specifically would you do about inflation? What policies would you enact that would bring inflation down? Hey, Kamala, you were put in charge of the southern border. Biden named you the border czar. What specific policies do you want to enact to make sure that our southern border is secure? Hey, Kamala, what do you want to do to bring peace between Ukraine and the Russians, or for that matter, between Israel and the Palestinians? What do you want to do specifically? Make her look. If the press isn't going to do it, Trump may as well. Lord knows he's having to do a whole lot of other things in this campaign he hadn't planned on doing. That would be funny as hell if he did that. That is what you call a major league goat move, greatest of all time. Tell you what, that would be funny. Oh, I agree with this. I'll agree with this. But if she gets a hold, I mean, that's the thing. If she gets a hold of anybody that's reasonably good, okay, that's reasonably good at what they do, there ain't no way she comes out of it undamaged. I'm sorry. I don't see how she does. And by the by, not everything in Kamala land is hugs and kisses and puppy dogs right now. I've got a story here from Politico, and this is worthy enough for you guys. I will drop it in chat. Okay, this one's good. And I say that not because I'm necessarily fond of the content, but all this stuff about love and happiness inside the Democrat Party right now, and everybody's having a rocking good time, and it's sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Oh, wait a minute, saying that about Democrats may not be the best thing to, forget that line about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. But I got an article here from Politico, and there are problems that's starting to develop. Kamala united the Democrats. Her campaign still has fractures. The early tensions could dissipate, or they could fester and spiral. From Christopher Catalago, we've got the following. Kamala Harris's campaign is navigating internal tensions as a team of senior strategists take hold of an operation largely staffed by people hired when Joe Biden was the Democrat nominee, according to 6 people, including aides familiar with the dynamics. Longtime Harris loyalists are also chafing at the continuing presence of some Biden aides known for disparaging the vice president, 3 of the people said. The unfolding friction is the result of an unprecedented overhaul of the Democrat ticket less than 3 months before the election, a daunting task that requires integrating 2 political worlds while at the same time selecting a vice presidential nominee and battling former President Trump. It requires negotiating a new structure at the highest levels. Jen O'Malley Dillon, the former Biden White House official and campaign chair, told Harris in a phone call she needs specific assurances that some of the campaign's new power players, including David Fluff, Obama's former campaign manager, would not dilute her decision-making authority, 2 of the people told Politico. Those people, like the others who detailed the campaign's internal dynamics, were granted anonymity to convey private conversations. The call last week came after advisors in the vice president's inner circle pushed hard to hire Fluff, who Harris wanted on the campaign to provide counsel. Politico was first to report that Harris's team's interest in Fluff, and to report his hiring more than a week later. After O'Malley Dillon heard the call with the vice president, the Harris campaign marked Fluff's arrival in a long list of staff additions with titles that one aide and a close ally said don't convey their significance or necessary proximity to Harris. They described Fluff's title, Senior Advisor for Path to 270 and Strategy, as severely downplayed given that those duties are typical the purview of a campaign manager. And they noted with suspicion the campaign manager Julie Chavez Rodriguez, a Harris alum from 2020 who went on to hold key positions in the White House and Biden sphere, was assigned a specific task of focusing on Sunbelt states of the American West as well as Latino voters, considering Harris's increased competitiveness in those states and her depth of experience. They view it as a demotion that further diffuses overall power. Folks, they got problems. They got problems. Trust me, not all is joy and sunshine inside Kamala land. They got big problems. Not good for them. Oh, I agree with this. Yeah, I want to see JD debate Kamala. That would be absolutely funny. Yep. And don't you think JD Vance won't bring that up? Don't you think he will not bring up Minneapolis? So yeah, they got some serious problems. Serious problems indeed. All right, we got a couple of clips from Trump's rally last night in Bozeman, Montana. By the way, did you guys know he started that rally probably 11 p.m. Eastern and finished at about 1 in the morning Eastern? He was up there for 2 hours. plane had trouble getting there. Apparently they had hydraulics trouble from what I hear. But yeah, Kamalama Ding Dong. Yeah, that's a good nickname for her. Or I like another one I've heard, Kamala Blah Blah. Kamala Blah Blah Blah. Would be a good way of finishing it. Oh yeah, he does. There's just something about that guy that's not right. He's just, yeah, I agree with you. I know what I think, but I'm not going to tag him with that, because the thing that I'm thinking, I wouldn't tag my worst enemy with that. Not this guy. Anyway, we got some dude, I love you, but I really hope you're wrong. Just saying. All right. Couple of clips from Trump the other night. And this is up in Bozeman, Montana. Guy went 2 hours till about 1 a.m. 78 years old. Yeah, he's got low energy, according to the Democrats. Check this out.
If Comrade Walz and Comrade Harris win this November, the people cheering will be the pink-haired Marxists, the looters, the perverts, the flag burners, Hamas supporters, drug dealers, gun grabbers, and human traffickers. But with a Trump Vance victory, the cheers will come from the police officers, the firefighters, the Border Patrol agents, the steel workers, small business owners, parents, and hardworking citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed.
That's good. I like that one. Although, if you're going to give her a nickname, I think Comrade Kamala would probably be better, but that's just me. All right, this next one runs a little long. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I think you're going to get a good idea where he's going here.
Walz said that socialism is just another word for neighborliness. She wants to be, he calls them neighbors, good neighbors. He signed a bill to give illegal aliens free health care. He abolished Columbus Day. He ordered tampons to be put into boys' bathrooms. Do we have any children here? Please close your ears. He ordered tampons in boys' bathrooms, okay? He signed a law letting the state kidnap children to change their gender so that they go home. But I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about her. This is her ideology. That's why she picked him. And he signed a bill allowing pedophiles to claim human rights protections under the state law. And then he said, by the way, J.D. Vance is doing a phenomenal job. But then he said, well, think of that. Think of the things I just said. Then he said, I think J.D. Vance is weird. It's a word that they use. I think he calls me that too. No, we're not. We're very solid people. We want to have strong borders. We want to have good elections. We want to have low interest rates. We want to be able to buy a house. We want great education. We want strong borders. I think we're I think we're the opposite of weird. They're weird. You know what?
And that is probably one of the best arguments he and Vance could make. Really? I'm weird? No, I actually believe we ought to have a strong border. I believe interest rates ought to be low. I believe our neighborhoods ought to be safe. That doesn't make me weird. That makes me normal. You, on the other hand, are not. I'm not going to say Trump's totally got his legs back, but watching some of those clips from last night, feeling a little better. But that's just me. All right. Got a couple of stories for HodgePodge too. And it's about, what is it now? 10 minutes? Jeez. I am long-winded today. I really am. I apologize to you guys. Let me do a real quick commercial. We'll do a couple of quick stories for HodgePodge, and I'll turn you guys loose. What I say, turn you guys loose, like you don't have the ability to walk out of here on your own. Anyway, my name is Brian Trippett. This is the Electronic Front Porch. More specifically, this live stream is known as Chatting on the Porch. So if you're not subscribed to my channel already on Rumble and YouTube, please do me a favor. Go ahead and give me a sub. I would genuinely appreciate it. Also, hit the bell for notifications. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Share the link around. Become a part of Fedora Nation, the smartest, coolest, funnest, and otherwise best audience on the internet. We've got some people here that are extraordinary, and I mean that with all my heart. There's not one reason why you should not be a part of that community. All right. HodgePodge Stew. For those of you who are here, and you know about this, maybe you're new to this and you're like, what the heck is HodgePodge Stew? HodgePodge Stew are those stories that are kind of out there, but not getting nearly the attention they deserve. And you all know me. I am all about bringing up stuff that is not being talked about. Now, this one that I'm going to do relates back to Joe Biden. You remember that guy, don't you? Oh, goodness. Goodness, you son of a gun. Dude, you've been on the brain lately. I've seen your posts on Twitter, and may I say, from me to you, to the Lord above, dude, you're in my heart, and you're on my thoughts and prayers. I love you, and thank you for being here. You are one of the coolest gentlemen on the whole of social media that I have met. And daggone it, one of these days we're going to work out together. You're going to put me to shame in the gym, but one of these days we're going to wind up working out together. But yeah, love you, brother. Absolutely love you. All right. Joe Biden, you remember that guy? You know, the president of the United States, the one that nobody talks about anymore, except when the Democrats want to bring him out and dust him off and, let everybody know that he's still alive. I want to take you guys back in time, and no, I'm not going to stop. You just get over it. Just get over it. I love you, and I'm going to tell you I love you. You remember? I want to take you guys back in time to Biden's last presidential trip to Las Vegas. He was out on a campaign run, and it was announced that he had COVID. Okay. Well, a lot was made of the circumstances behind him leaving Las Vegas. No, I'm not trying to play on words with that. Okay. A lot was made about how and why he left Las Vegas as quickly as he did and flew back to Wilmington. Now, everybody said he had COVID, which, okay, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But a lot of people speculated was something else going on. As a matter of fact, there were reports, particularly coming out of the New York Post, that Air Force One took off with such fury that the plane was literally shaking as it went up in the air. Now, I don't mean the normal takeoff experience that one has when they're flying. I mean, somebody put the hammer down on the engines and this thing's shaking going up into the air. Okay. Now, Laura Loomer, who, you can take or leave, you can get mad at, you can say she's nuts, you can say she's a good reporter, you can say a lot of things about her. Laura Loomer at the time was reporting, hey guys, I'm hearing it from my sources. There was a serious medical emergency that was going on, and the White House just isn't saying anything. Well, given that it's Laura Loomer, everybody's like, oh, come on. No one wants to believe her. She's crazy. She's nuts. She's a rabid Trump person. No one ought to believe her. Yada, yada, yada. Look, Laura Loomer does not need me to defend her, but I will say this. It looks like Laura Loomer was right. I take you to redstate.com. Now, I know you're saying, what? Well, these guys are just as right-wing as she is. Hold on. Just follow me on this. Las Vegas police recordings released from Biden's medical event and a Code 3 transport to the airport. From Jennifer Van Laar, and this is from yesterday at around 7 o'clock in the evening is when they posted this. Audio from the Las Vegas Metro Police Department. Now, keep in mind, we're not talking right-wing media here. We're not talking about, you're not talking about Alex Jones or InfoWars or the Gateway Pundit or Breitbart. No, this is from the Las Vegas Metro Police Department. Protective detail for President Joe Biden on July 17th was released Friday afternoon by Oversight Project, which obtained the recordings through a Freedom of Information Act request. These recordings confirm red states reporting that Biden was first headed to University Medical Center, a trauma center, after he suddenly canceled a speaking engagement due to illness, then suddenly diverted directly to Harry Reid International Airport. 3 of the recordings, now listen to this, 3 of the recordings span a time frame of a few hours and are not timestamped, so it's difficult to get the exact time frames from them. 2 of the clips, each about 4 minutes long, are clips from the general channel where Las Vegas Metro Police Department coordinated additional units, meaning units that were not involved in the protective detail. They used them to shut down traffic and secure the routes after the sudden change of plans. The 3rd clip, the event channel for the officers involved, is about 43 minutes long. We are sharing the full audio on here so readers can listen for themselves. In both 4-minute clips, officers are requested to respond to a code 3, meaning an emergency response posture. Now, before we go any further, I'm dropping this link in both Rumble and YouTube, okay? Now, I'm not necessarily going to play the clips, but we're going to keep reading through this, okay? At about 21 minutes into the clip, one of the officers asks if another is available for a phone call, and the next thing said is, for everybody on the radio, right now, they are on hold for something regarding the president, and instructs officers on the detail to allow some traffic through the intersections while they wait. Shortly after that, the protective detail is informed of the following, quote, for everyone on the radio, right now, POTUS is 421. He's been seen, so we're kind of waiting to see how this is shaping out. So for everybody's knowledge, he's 421. We're trying to figure out what's going on and where we're going to go from there. Code 421 is a sick or injured person, according to Las Vegas Metro Police Department's code sheet. After that, there's about 20 hectic minutes of coordination as the protective detail quickly moves their resources from the route between Lindo, Michicano, and MGM Grand, where Biden was slated to speak, to instead secure a route from Lindo Michicano. All units were again requested to respond to code 3. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to know right now what exactly happened. Now, I know you Democrats are still out there watching this, are like, oh, of course you want to know. No, wait a minute. Whoa, hang on. Look, this is no longer a Democrat or Republican thing. This is the President of the United States. I want to know what the hell happened. I mean, everybody's trying to tell us it's COVID. He simply had COVID. That's why he looks so bad coming off the plane. I saw the video of him coming off the plane back at Wilmington, Delaware. That man looked like death warmed over. It was so bad, in fact, that some people assumed that, and I don't think it's much of an assumption. I think it's actually true. People assumed that one of the Secret Service agents had to help him into the car. Okay. I want to know what happened. Was the President of the United States worse off than we were told? I'm telling you, folks, and I'm not trying to be conspiratorial when I ask this question, I'm getting the distinct impression he was worse than people were made aware of. Truly. He was worse off then than we are truly been told. One more story I want to get into. Oh, yes. Yes. I said, yeah, that's a very true point. It's a very true point. TBA says, I thought Walter Reed was the president's hospital if and when he's in D.C. That's kind of what I thought. And from what I understand, and again, I could be dead wrong about this, but my understanding is there is a full medical center on Air Force One. I mean, they could perform surgery up in the air if they had to. That's how extensive the facilities are on Air Force One. But if it was that bad, why are you bringing him back to Wilmington? I think that's a very fair question to ask. Yeah. One more story and we're going to get out of here. Nancy Pelosi right now is not exactly enjoying the best of relationships with President Joe Biden. Now, you expect politicians, even if they're friends, to have their moments when they are not on the best of terms. But what she's doing right now, at least from my estimation, is the equivalent of kicking a guy when he's down. So the other day, she makes a very ludicrous statement and tells everybody that she thinks Joe Biden ought to be on Mount Rushmore. Then the next day, she goes out and does the following. TBA. Before I do that, TBA says, didn't they take him to the Trauma One hospital in Las Vegas? Instead, he says they didn't take him to the Trauma One hospital. Instead, through 3 3/4 hours to Wilmington, Delaware, not Walter Reed. Well, that's what I'm saying. The circumstances behind what was done just make no sense. I mean, look, any presidential visit to any city anywhere in America, there is a contingency plan built in. There has to be a hospital there capable of handling a big-time trauma event. Okay? At least that's my understanding. I could be dead wrong about this, but that's my general understanding. If, God forbid, something goes wrong and the president has to be taken to a hospital, there's a hospital available that can handle anything, and I mean anything that could come up. Okay? Then if that's the case, and there was a level 1 trauma medical facility in Las Vegas, which you would assume that there is, and if the facilities on Air Force One are so good you could do surgery if needed, why did you fly him almost 4 hours across the country with speed as if you were on the wings of Mercury to get him back to Wilmington, Delaware? That makes not an ounce of sense whatsoever. None. But anyway, Pelosi is kicking dirt on Joe Biden when he's down. You don't believe me? Check this out from the New York Post. Pelosi admits she was never that impressed with Biden's political operation. Story by Ryan King. We've got the following. Former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi opened up about her role in the mutiny against President Biden and admitted she's never been that impressed with his political operation, days after suggesting he should be featured on Mount Rushmore. Quote, they won the White House. Bravo. But my concern was this ain't happening, and we have to make a decision for this to happen. The president has to make the decision for that to happen. Pelosi candidly told the New Yorker about her concerns about his 2024 prospects. The Speaker Emerita did not elaborate on why she was unimpressed with Biden's political machine. Pelosi, 84, has been on a book tour, which has doubled as something of a cleanup expedition in recent days over her role in Biden's withdrawal, which appears to have strained the pair's decades-long relationship. A little bit further into this article, we have the following. Throughout multiple interviews, Pelosi has been showering Biden with praise in public, hailing him as a consequential president worthy of recognition at the level of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, and Teddy Roosevelt. Yeah, that's cute. A little more into this article. When asked about rumors that Biden, 81, was frustrated with her, she told CBS News in an interview that aired Sunday, "He knows that I love him very much." Well, with love like that, who needs enemies? Over the course of her career in Congress, which has spanned just under 4 decades, Pelosi developed a reputation for being ruthless, calculating, and a slick political operative. After Biden's shocking debate performance against former President Donald Trump at the end of June triggered heart palpitations on the Democrat Party, Pelosi emerged as a defender, but her tone soon shifted. 2 days after Biden penned a letter insisting to Democrats in Congress he was firmly committed to staying in the race, Pelosi appeared on MSNBC's Morning Joe, rumored to be among the president's favorite political shows. "It's up to the president to decide if he's going to run. We're all encouraging him to make that decision because time is running short." Folks, I tell you what, and I mean this with all my heart. If Joe Biden walked into the Democrat convention in Chicago, got up and gave a speech on national television and took a crap and took a dump on the entire Democrat Party, they deserve it. Now, this is true too. This is true. I'm telling you, they may be trying to put on the idea that everything is love, joy, and happiness in the Democrat Party right now. I am telling you right now, there is a lot of problems, and it wouldn't take much. It would not take much to blow the whole thing up. It really wouldn't. But anyway, with that, we're going to go ahead and call it a wrap. Bring this train into the station. Okay, we're going to be back Monday night. Dr. Robin McCutcheon is coming back to the electronic front porch for an interview. So please spread the word. I will start putting things out this weekend to let people know. Dr. McCutcheon is going to be here to talk all things economics, and I'm really looking forward to getting her take, not just on actual economics, but on political economics, if there is such a thing. Anyway, I love you guys. Thank you so much for making this live stream as fun as it has been. We will be back Monday night at 7:30. You guys have fun. Go out and grill this weekend. Spend time with your families. Tell them you love them. And in the meanwhile, remember the words of that great American philosopher, Tom T. Hall, when he said, "It's faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, and more money." I love you guys. We'll see you later.